I didn't give up. I strived to get what was necessary to proceed. I got help from other people. And even though you're a mathematician or you're an engineer, I don't think it makes that much difference if you got that drive.
Hello, I'm Sue Nelson and welcome to the Create the Future podcast, brought to you by the Queen Elizabeth Prize for Engineering, celebrating engineering visionaries and inspiring creative minds. Dr. Gladys West is a mathematician who grew up on her parents' farm in rural Virginia in the United States. It was a humble beginning, considering that decades later, her mathematical modelling of the Earth's surface paved the way for the 2019 Queen Elizabeth Prize winning engineering invention, the Global Positioning System. And during an extraordinary career, which encompasses teaching and working for the US military, Gladys was a pioneer in the use of complex maths and efficient programming that enabled many engineers to flourish. She also took part in an award-winning astronomical study that proved, during the early 1960s, the regularity of Pluto's motion relative to Neptune. And earlier this year, Gladys became the first woman to receive the Prince Philip Medal, the Royal Academy of Engineering's highest individual award. Gladys has a degree and master's in mathematics, a second master's in public administration, and she embarked on a PhD in public administration and policy on retiring at the age of 68. A stroke interrupted her progress, but she carried on after recovering and was awarded her degree aged 70. Now 90, Gladys is enjoying her legacy and her grandchildren, and I'm delighted to have her join us today, beginning by explaining her mathematical contribution to GPS.
I got a job using the computers that were being developed at that time in my life. And we were so excited and happy because they were so big and they could process so much data at a high speed and so forth and so on. So the math and the computers and GPS all would have gone hand in hand together as far as the solution and being valuable. So even though I wasn't aware, not to a certain extent, of what I was really producing as a final product, I did know that I was using math and I was using geodesy and all, but just excited because we came out with GPS.
Modelling the Earth's surface. Why do we need to model the Earth's surface?
Because we didn't really know what it looked like, how it reacted, where the forces are on it. You just didn't know enough about it to write up a set of intelligent equations for solutions. That just was a part of the problem that they were trying to solve at that time. And everybody knew about the problems, but this was the first time they had a computer and all that was big enough to handle all the databases and satellite recording every time it goes around the Earth, and just little bunkers full of tapes of satellite data. I mean, we never had anything that exciting before.
Yeah, you said it was exciting. How long did it take you to write a program that would do this sort of work?
It was done in stages by many people. I haven't counted them, but I can imagine over the time it was a few years to get all the work done. And and we weren't the only organization that was working on it either. We were working with DMA and NRL and other places too. So it just wasn't a simple thing that one person gets and do for a week or 2 weeks or something like that.
So it was a real team effort.
Yes.
And when did you discover a love for maths? Because growing up on a farm, you wouldn't automatically assume that, a mathematician is born.
No, To tell you the truth, I didn't ever really discover the love for math. What happened was, when it was getting around high school time, and you need to make up your mind about what you're going to major in and what you're going to strive for when you get to college. My teachers, I guess, had more influence in that area because they felt that I was doing all of my courses very well, and I didn't have any problem with my courses. And so they felt that, as advice, that I should take one of the areas that I was good in, and it was more difficult, and it provided more of a variety of jobs and all, rather than taking something that was easy to like have fun, I guess.
So your teachers saw your potential there.
Yes,
Were
yes.
your parents slightly disappointed that you didn't want to work at their farm, or were they supportive that you were going off to do something different?
I don't think that they were disappointed. I think they were happy that I was still striving to do better, to eventually be self sufficient, be able to take care of myself and to help them and all. I think they still saw me as a bright light shining for them, and I'm still striving, and I'm doing all right. And, I didn't step down below. I still was stepping up.
And did they have a college education? Had they gone to university?
No, that was the sad part about it, I guess. But my mother was smart as she could be, and she could read and write. And she didn't finish elementary school, I don't think. But during that time, schooling was very different. We didn't even have buses to high schools and all that, so they didn't have the opportunity to go further than where they could walk to school. But she was smart enough to know that she wanted me to do better, be better than she, to be what she couldn't be, because she knew she was bright. And she mentioned to me one day that when school opened and she couldn't go to school, she just cried all day because some of her friends went and she couldn't go. So she was geared in. She sort of made me, I guess, even more aware of the necessity of me going to school.
It does bring out a bit of a determined streak in you, doesn't it? And a desire to do them proud.
Yes, it made me know that I had to win. I just couldn't be a failure. I had to win because I was disappointed so many in the family and all, and myself. I couldn't imagine myself being married with two, three little children standing waiting for me.
Now, your parents couldn't afford a college education, but you got a scholarship to Virginia State College, which was a university which only took people of color. And this was during the late 40s and early 50s. Did you ever feel lonely, the fact that there were so few women studying maths at that time, or did you feel at home?
And no, I didn't feel lonely, but the classes were small. So as long as I had one or two friends, I guess I was never excited about having a lot of friends and all. So that sort of suited my personality in a way. And we all were black at the college also. So there was no integration. Separation would have been in terms of being with the educated professors and people who had education more than you did. That would have been the separator, I would think, if there had been something. But the kids they were just having a good time.
And you had to pay your way through college and do jobs, didn't you?
Yes, the scholarship paid all of my tuition, but then I needed some other fees and all that needed to be been paid, room and board or whatever to have. And at the end of the first year, I had gotten a job that allowed me to work at a professor's house for the rest of the money that I needed. So after the first year, I had no problems in money anymore because you had to study to make a C average at least with the scholarship to keep the scholarship, and I knew that I was going to make that C average. I I was working working hard. And I always feel like a result of that was I didn't get to play as much because I knew that I was serious about never going back. And in order to do that, I would have to work to make sure that. And we came from a country high school also, which means that we weren't quite as prepared as kids were from bigger high schools.
And after your degree in maths, did you decide to do a master's immediately?
No, after I got the degree, I taught for 2 years in a high school. I taught math and science in high school, but I think I mentioned I lived with some professors, the math professor and the physics professor. I met with them. I lived with them, and they were trying to tell me that the first job I shouldn't worry too much about because I should use it as a stepping stone, or can be used as a stepping stone to something that was more closer to what I wanted, I guess. And so I sort of took that advice, and I took the first job that was offered me, which was a teaching job in Waverly, Virginia, and I taught math and science. And I stayed there for about 2 years, and I thought that felt about right. And so I resigned and went back to Virginia State to get a master's, and I got a master's. Then at the moment I came out with a few other things that happened, I got hired at Dahlgren, Virginia, and that's where I sort of stayed.
And this was the US Naval Weapons Laboratory.
Yes, yes, yes.
So you were a programmer and a mathematician there. What sort of work did you have to do? I suppose it being a weapons laboratory, there's only so much you can tell me.
What we would have to do would be to learn the equations, the theory, and all of the problem that you're working on. And then they taught us how to lay out the design, we call it programming, how to lay out the logic to go through to get through to the answer. You had to lay that out. And then in order to talk to the machine, you had to learn a language to say things that it recognized. So that's called coding. So we learned how to lay out these programs, had them outline in your head, and you could be walking around, and you could be still working on your work. It was sight. It was new for us too because we tell you the truth, we didn't know anything about computers before we came, and nothing. We didn't even have a computer at our school before. So that means there was a long sort of climbing up the hill to get on board. But it was exciting, and everybody else was excited about all the capability that we had. And so, you didn't take any chances of not doing your best. So we did our best to get aboard and be able to program and code.
It sounds like you really enjoyed it. How did you end up working on an astronomical study relating to Pluto and Neptune? I mean, that seems a sort of wow.
Yeah, but if you knew the kind of organization it was, and that's what they were working on, you tend to see this other way that you are assigned to projects that are available at that time. And so I guess I just happened to be ready for a new job. And I got to work on this Neptune and Pluto thing. And the men who sort of designed it for us too, they were more senior people, and I guess they probably wanted to give us some kind of experience and stuff too. So they sort of put newer people with more seasoned people.
Now, we sort of touched on some of the race issues. Because you were working for the government, did that mean you couldn't take part in any civil rights protests at the time?
Well, that's what we understood, that we could not do that. So we were very unhappy in the sense that we could walk by the stores in Fredericksburg and we could see people sitting at the counters and all, and we don't know whether we should walk by or go another way or something because You didn't know how they felt about us and what happened to us. So we decided that we could help by just being us and being the best us that we could be, and respect those respect them and respect yourself what you're doing, but always, like being favorable in a favorable sense. You don't negative and get in a big fight for something you don't know quite what you're getting in for.
Now, during the mid 70s and throughout the 80s, this is when you were working on using algorithms to account for these various forces, variation in forces that distort the Earth's shape. And that's quite interesting because it wasn't that long ago when I discovered that, the Earth is not a perfect sphere, that it is a sort of wobbly, odd shaped sort of
Yeah.
globe. So, what
Mhm.
sort of forces were you examining?
There's a variety of forces. Just the gravitational force and the shape and the big clunks here and there cause things to happen differently. And the tides, the water when it goes in, comes out, and all that. So we had special scientists who worked in the force in particular force areas to make sure that we were understanding and getting it just right, and they all total up to a one big force that caused the Earth to wobble or not wobble.
And I read that you used an IBM 7030 stretch computer.
I'm not sure why they gave it the name Stretch, but we liked it. It was an improvement over what when we started. We had the NORC, the NORC, the Naval Research Ordnance Calculator. We had that, and then we got the Stretch after that. So I don't know, maybe that was a stretch.
And were they these big, huge size of a house type computers?
Yeah, these were computers that occupied rooms,
Yes. Sort of enormous.
and we didn't go down to the next level unless they call you down there. You didn't get in the way of the computers and the men who we had a group of people who maintained the computers and kept everything safe, and just analyzed it, did all troubleshooting. It was a big operation because it was new, and now I guess we have a computer on our wrist and they can do as much as those big computers can do. One thing about the stretch and all those, they were big. They could process more data. They could do a lot of forces and all. But we were still using machine language. It was, I guess, at the bare minimum. You're using pluses and ones, and which made it more difficult to program and code for. But as the stretch came, we sort of like made a language, and it wasn't Fortran. There was Fortran, and you sort of can code by sight. This one was a step below Fortran. It was an improvement over the very first one we had.
You're right that it was called stretch because it stretched the known, then the known limits in computers. And at the time, it was the fastest computer in the world for a period of time in the 60s. So you were working right at the forefront of
Yes,
computing.
yes, we were.
And, your work modeling the Earth has paved the way for GPS. And this is, hugely significant technology
Mhm.
used all over the world by so many people every day. Do you think people realize how important mathematics is for engineers?
Yeah, math is a powerful method of doing things. Just understanding the math, you just can apply it to other thoughts, other discoveries, or other way of looking at things. If you got these equations that need to be inverted, you got to set up this huge, humongous list of data representing each one of the forces and all. Then you have to invert that. and you have to have in your mind really what is this that I'm handling, and being able to just follow that thinking while you're doing something else that the name may be a little different than what you think you're working on. It's mind-boggling in a way, but as you learn it, it becomes just a part of your way of thinking, where life is when you're working with the math. And math is always, I feel, so clean and logical and precise, and have a lot of advantages to using the math. And engineers a lot of times use a lot of equations and all that's just right out of math.
And what made you decide to study for a PhD after retiring?
I have to tell you the truth that I was studying for many years before then. I never gave up and never stopped studying. I always would look at my schedule and determine what it was that I could do at this time, or what kind of free time that I had, or what was the most important thing for me to do next. And so I was always taking some kind of a course and some kind of this. And then after you get to a certain point, you feel like if you want to come to an end, and you decide what you're going to do, what kind of degree you're going to get, if you go ahead and apply that, and rather than just studying. So I had done all my coursework before I retired, and also gotten my title for my thesis approved. I have done just about, and got all the little things that needed to be swept up and cleaned up good. I had got all that done before I retired, so that I didn't have to go back and worry about the government.
And are you still learning today?
I like to say no, but we're having a hard time with these computers now.
And looking back on your life, when so much has changed within science, technology, engineering, and maths since you started your career, what progress do you think is left to be made?
Oh dear, I would think there's so much that I couldn't even comprehend how it is, because these computers today are just so powerful, and people understand so much, and things are so fast, and everybody's getting to use it. It's becoming the way of life, the way you have to think. It's so much you can learn and be more prepared if you want to get into it, like going to the moon. And having a seat and come back home. It's just powerful. It's so much I can't hardly imagine
What's
how I can.
ahead? Yeah.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless.
Yes, it's just mind-boggling.
And what
What
do
a
you
gr-
consider the highlight of your career?
and I keep changing my mind about the highlight. Sometimes I think one way, another time I think others. I would think first, I would think that when I got that college degree, that I knew that I was ready. But then when I started on the studying to continue on with my life, I feel like I wasn't so ready. And now I'm just thankful for being able to see the recognition that other people are giving me and how much I have affected other people. And to me, that is a big thing for me to see too, because it's hard to figure out exactly what you're striving for, what you're trying to get out of this, but it's something that you're working on.
As a mathematician, how do you feel about being a role model within engineering?
I think my role modeling would be such that I didn't give up. I strived to get what was necessary to proceed. I got help from other people. For example, to be hired for the job for college, and also getting a scholarship. I feel like the role model was a lot has a lot to do with applying yourself and working hard as you can, and taking advantages that are available, and believe in yourself even though you're struggling, you know you're down below, you still have to struggle. And even though you're a mathematician or you're engineer, I don't think it makes that much difference if you got that thing to make you strive for what it is that you need at that time.
Do you use GPS yourself?
I would say yes, but I don't drive as much now as I did before. So I only using it when my husband or son-in-law or somebody takes me somewhere or going somewhere. I use the same one that they're using on their car. But it is fun when you're using it and you're driving. But I always said that I like to see more and know more than what they tell me to turn right, turn left, and 2 miles turn this and that. When I get through, I got to add up all those pieces.
And congratulations, by the way, on the Prince Philip medal.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
thought that was great too.
yeah. I was going to ask you how you felt about getting that award.
I was real proud of it. I guess I was proud of that one because it was in another country. I had been there to the country, and I knew a little bit about it, and so I was real pleased with it. And I got to talk to her when she gave it to me, Princess Anne.
What an honor, and what an honor it is to have you on the Create the Future podcast. Dr. Gladys West, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Find out more about the Queen Elizabeth Prize for Engineering by following QE Prize on Twitter and Instagram, or visit qeprize.org.